Yo, what is good, everybody? It's your boy, Golden Falls, Golden What If, whatever you want to call me. And I am back. I'm back with a brand new Isagi What If. This is what if Isagi had a talent enhancement weapon. Shout out to the boy, EMMET. He makes some of my thumbnails. Most recently, he hasn't made as many, but this one is straight from him. So his Discord is in the link in the description. Or it's not really a link, I guess, if you want to talk to him or ask him for thumbnails or know who the thumbnail is made by or so on and so forth. He does a really good job, so check him out. And this is also his idea. He wanted me to do it, so I decided that I would do it. This is talent enhancement Isagi, or talent enhancement weapon Isagi, and I'm not going to waste that much more of your time because I want to get right into the what if. Let's get it. Yoichi Isagi is, well, a striker. Yes, a striker. And it's as if he makes his entire team and everyone around him that much better. He's kind of just really talented at making other talented people even better. It's kind of odd, but this is the truth, and it kind of fits most of the style of coaching that is heard throughout Japan, at least in terms of high school coaching. Most high school coaches will tell you that the team comes first and this and that, but Isagi and one other person are the most talented people on the field no matter what, even though Isagi kind of isn't necessarily probably fit to be a quote-unquote striker. But since they're both the most talented players on the field, they both play some sort of a striker position. And his other dynamic duo, someone that takes most, if not all, the glory, is one by the name of Kira. Yes, Isagi and Kira. They're actually known relatively well in their community as this dynamic high school duo. It seems like they are insanely talented and insanely well coordinated, and it seems like all of it falls into place perfectly. It seems like when Kira runs by and more or less makes a cut for an open pass, the pass that Isagi makes it so that the defense actively kind of goes away from Kira. This might sound weird, but his pass and his way of leading Kira in a certain direction actually enhances Kira's ability to not only score the ball, but his ability to get even more open. The goals would just come easy. And Isagi, he would pick up some goals here and there himself, but nothing to the point where he would be doing something spectacular. I mean, he wouldn't score nowhere near as much as what he would if he was just completely by himself. But at the end of the day, the duo interaction between him and Kira seems like a spectacle. Like there's nobody out there that is better linked up and has better chemistry than those two alone. At least that's what people think. Many people believe that their duo and their connection is like ungodly. I mean, it's kind of so crazy that it's unbelievable. They believe that nobody could have a connection like this. That's as if their minds are linked together. I mean, it's kind of wild. They would play their tournament game, and during this game, it would just show off exactly what everyone and what they believe as well, that they are in complete and utter sync. It's as if Isagi himself can link up and sync up with Kira without any problems at all. But to the keen eye, well, let's just say the very keen eye can see something and notice something that many others could not. And that's when Isagi leads the dance, and when Isagi begins to manipulate and change the field, Kira gets so much better. Way, way better. But when Kira has the ball, it seems as if Kira's not as good. And that Isagi is actually, well, might even be better than him in a technical sense. It might sound odd and might sound weird because many of the casuals and many of the people that are just fans of the team or just watching along don't realize this. They have no idea. But one by the name of Jinpachi Ego, who watches very closely with his keen eye, can tell that Isagi has more to him than anybody can possibly imagine. He's not the traditional striker, but there's something that goes through the head of Jinpachi Ego that makes him think that even if this person right here, even if Yoichi Isagi can't become and won't become the best striker in the world just based on whatever he's capable of, he might be able to create the best striker in the world, or at least help in the process. So that after that game, the tournament being over and everything comes to an abrupt end, Isagi's team, or Isagi and Kira's team, would win. But when Isagi would arrive at home with a smile on his face, he would see a letter sitting there waiting for him. That letter would be his ticket into the unknown place that he currently doesn't know about by the name of Blue Lock. They would arrive together because, don't get me wrong, Kira and Isagi are definitely friends here, and they would arrive together at an auditorium. This auditorium would be crowded and stacked with talent all around, strikers alike, and many all around. And as they look around, they begin to think and realize that this place is a little odd. I mean, they're not 100% sure why. They don't know what to think about it and don't know how to put their finger on it. But this place is very, very odd, or at least feels odd. And eventually, the one and only Jinpachi Ego would show up. He would begin speaking with everybody there and would talk about how an ego is something that can create the greatest striker, and that he's here to hone the skills of some unpolished gems and make, well, the best striker in Japan for Japan's national team, to lead them to a World Cup. He tells them all of his ideals and what they should believe and what is going to come. But Kira, again, would say that playing the game of football is not about having an ego, about looking for your own goals. It's about, well, teamwork. It's teamwork. Of course it's teamwork. And it's about your team winning, and winning is the only thing that matters. In which Ego would look at him and look at him closely. You're Kira, correct? Now, I will say, it's very odd that you're saying this, especially when you have the guy over there, Yoichi Isagi, right? As your crutch. And everybody would be shocked that he even said this to one of the strikers there currently. And other strikers begin to think that, well, they don't have a crutch. I mean, it's kind of embarrassing to be a striker and have a crutch like that. I mean, is he really saying that the only reason why Kira is able to score is because of Isagi? That's insane. What a joke that guy must be. In which, of course, Kira would be kind of frustrated by this, saying that him and Isagi, they're a tandem. There's a reason why they're so successful and were so successful. But Ego cuts him off, saying that, no, there's a reason why you're so successful. Don't play stupid, kid. You know I watch all your guys' games, and I've seen what you all are capable of. But I'm not going to sit here and argue with you. We have way too much to do and way too much to learn. So he points to the doors as they would swing open, and it's as if this ray of light would come beaming out. Isagi would look at the light, look back at Kira, and tell him that if he wants to prove that he's able to do this, and he's that much better than everyone else, then they should step through those doors. And Kira would say that that's not his mentality. It's never been. He knows that. But Isagi says that sometimes you gotta prove people wrong, but you'll have to creep over to the dark side to do it. Isagi says that he knows that Kira is talented, but they both and all of them need to learn how to adapt. So he walks through, and Kira's short behind, and they walk through and get ready for whatever's to come in Blue Lock. They put on their clothing, their Blue Lock attire, and they get ready for the first assessment. Their first assessment is tag. Yeah, it might sound weird. Tag seems like an odd thing. And Isagi would be kind of confused about this. I mean, what does tag have to do with football at all? Like, I mean, it's kind of odd, but hey, I mean, it's cool. He thinks that it's an interesting thing, especially after Ego explains it, explaining that it's really about whoever gets tagged first. And then whoever's it needs to kick the ball and hit someone else. There's no handballs, you can't pick up the ball, but you have to do everything in your power to dodge, avoid, and so on and so forth. Isagi would play a lot of just keep away, running around, trying to get away from people, kind of like making it so that he can kind of stay away. And many people that are there, well, they did hear the commotion about Isagi, so they're real curious about what he's capable of. I mean, it's a bold statement to say that a striker basically made another striker. Straight up made them. So that bold statement is being taken very seriously. So they're not sure what's up with Isagi. Is he talented? Is he not talented? Is he like this crazy good striker that gets him open looks? They're not sure. Not sure at all. But it seems that Isagi does have a bit of an advantage. The only main advantage he has though is the fact that when he runs around to avoid people, he can kind of read their movements a lot better than anybody else can. And the reason for this is his understanding of many very different talents. He's seen it all around. He's seen people with insane dribbling skills, insane shooting skills, insane ball control. At least he's seen it, right? And this helps him kind of gauge the talent and the restrictions that those talented people have in their weapons. So he's able to bob and weave a little bit better. And when we're talking about the Monk Boy can't really touch Isagi very easily. And it actually eventually becomes a stalemate, leading to the elimination of Iragashi, aka the Monk Boy. And actually this time around, Kira would still be in. And this would make Isagi happy. At the end of the day, they are buds. They're definitely buddies. And he would be happy that his buddy Kira is still in. And he tells Isagi that they're going to prove to this dude that, well, you don't need to have an ego to be the best strikers. That you don't need to. That you could be the best in various different ways. Kira says this, and frankly, Isagi believes this to be true to an extent. But at the same time, I mean, there has to be something to it, right? There's no way that this more or less very informed and talented person would just make something up. I mean, that's a ridiculous idea, right? I mean, why would he make something up? So, with that said, though, information would then spread from Jinpachi to the rest of the people. For one, Monk Boy leaving and being eliminated, but also the fact that, well, we need more information about what's going to happen next. He tells them all that the 11 of them here will more or less make up a team. Sometimes they'll work together. Other times they will feel like a team of insanely impactful individuals. And other times they'll betray each other. They'll rip their trust to shreds, and everything will shatter to pieces. But he says that they have to find a way to not let it shatter. And first off, they immediately have a conversation after Jinpachi Ego would leave, or at least disappear from the screen. They would have a conversation about what they're capable of. At the end of the day, they are a team, and if they're not going to fit the roles of, well, a striker so perfectly, or at least fit the roles of everyone on the team, kind of molding to different things, that they should figure out some sort of strategy. In which Kira would immediately say something. He would say that he personally believes that he's talented. He does. But he was frustrated that Ego was sitting there saying that the only reason why he can do anything is because of Isagi. In which all of them would ask if that's true. I mean, frankly, they don't mean it in any bad way, but does he rely on Isagi that much? And of course, Kira would say that in a way he understands that it kind of is true, but they were on the same team. He wasn't just gonna not play with Isagi. And all of them stop and think and believe that maybe, well, they should let the young man facilitate. in which Isagi says that he knows that his demeanor is not very, like, big. He's, he's a short and he looks young, but he's not that much younger. If not, he's probably older than some of them. Why are they calling him like little bro? That's kind of messed up. In which they all think that he's kind of just a more timid type of person. And that's what he is, more or less. He's a little bit more timid, but if he can make Kira into an absolute monster, what can he do for an entire team of strikers? What kind of talent enhancement can he do for them? Now that is something that everyone thinks about. They then say that maybe Isagi should play a certain spot on the field that would allow him to facilitate the best. And the easiest and most obvious position would be, frankly, a midfielder. Yeah, he would be out of position to what he's normally used to, but at the end of the day, he was really only a forward or a striker, really, because he was one of the better players on the team, and he had the ability to score goals, at least against lower competition. So the fact is, being a midfielder would be extremely beneficial for Isagi at the moment. I mean, if everything, Kira says is correct, the idea that he's basically able to make other people talented, then maybe put him at midfield and hope for the best. In which, that's exactly what happens. And frankly, everything else seemingly falls into place. They all talk about what they're capable of, what they can do, and Isagi sees one person and believes that, he would kind of fit perfectly in what he wants to do. And that would be one Bachira. Bachira has insane dribbling and also just flat out is an insane passer. So he believes that the utilization of both Bachira and maybe Kira could be absolutely dynamic. But on top of that, they have a big scorer in Kunigami. I mean, he's a massive man, and frankly, he could probably score from most ranges, if not all ranges. So that's also something to keep in mind. Isagi would tell them that it's a lot to be putting on one person, especially when they don't know who he is. Do they think that this is the best idea? I mean, how much faith do they really have in him? And Bachira would ask, how much faith does he have in himself? And Isagi says that he has all the faith in the world in himself. But he knows that they are strangers, that everyone is a stranger to him, and that he is a stranger to all of them, and that they are a stranger to him as well. So, at the end of the day, he wanted to see where their heads were at. But he's up for whatever they want to do, and frankly, the communication and the connection he has with Kira, just off the bat, will definitely help them carry themselves through a struggling game, if needed. In which Kira agrees with this, but Bachira, Kunigami, and obviously Raichi would say that there's no way they're going to be struggling, so that's not a worry to be had. He tells them to not worry about that, because there's no way in hell that they're going to be struggling at any point. But all the conversation comes to a halt, and finally they learn of their first game against Team X. Now, this right here is the first time they're going to be able to show what they're really capable of. Now, being capable of something and putting it into action are two very different things. But at the same time, they want to see how this plays out. Isagi would delegate a couple of the positions to different people. He would say that, a lot of them should be playing certain positions, and just from his knowledge of what's going on and what they're capable of. He wants everything, though, to feed through him, Bachira, Kunigami, and Kira. He tells Gagamaru that he seems to be the perfect fit for a goalie. Yeah, he's kind of just super athletic, can get around the post super quick, and it seems like he's just that dude. Raichi seems like the perfect defender. Yes, he knows that all of them are strikers, but at the end of the day, he even admits it himself that he should have never been at the position of a forward, at least not on his team. It just didn't make sense. But it made sense to the coach because they were just the most talented on the team. But now, he may not be the most talented on the team. So, he's going to fit in the position that he thinks is best. All of them would nod their heads, and even though they do agree, there's still some massive skepticism. I mean, come on. I mean, you were a striker all your life. I think you would still want to be right now, right? Of course. But luckily, this is all figured out and solved pretty quickly because Team X, well, has a freak on their team. A monster by the name of Shohei Bado. And yes, on a team that is coordinated, a team that would be built around him, and a team that would be more or less perfect for the fitting of Shohei Bado, let's just say he might be an absolute monster. Maybe even a villain and an antagonist on a football field for whoever's the opposing team. But uncoordination doesn't fit against the team of Team Z. At the end of the day, Team Z has more or less coordinated relatively well just off the bat because of the knowing of Isagi Yoichi. They all want to make sure that they build around him. So the fact is, Isagi puts everything into perspective. When they get the ball and the ball gets in their hands, it's as if everything flows extremely smoothly. Quickly, Kira would get his first goal, putting the game 1-0 in their favor. And it was as if it was poetry in motion. Cutting across the field, the pass was perfect, Isagi setting up Kira, and no defender would even be around him. And Bachira would see it. It's as if Isagi's pass confuses everybody. It might sound odd, but his pass mid-air, it's as if they're telling other people where they're gonna go, but telling Kira where he should go. Bachira would smirk and say to himself that he never thought that the monster that he'd be looking for wouldn't even truly be a striker. It would be someone like Isagi, someone that could yank the monster from him, but at the same time merge the monster into Bachira's psyche, turning him into something greater. And Bachira begins to get excited, saying, me next, I want to coordinate with Isagi next. And everybody sits there and they all think that there's no way that he could do that with someone else. He's been playing with Kira forever. But that's wrong. Very wrong. Obviously, this would be more of a test game, especially with the collapse of Team X. Once they see any coordination, nobody is going to be listening to Shohei Bado, and Bado's going to try to do his own thing. So once they get a wrap on how to stop him, and at the end of the day, Isagi's more or less way of defending allows for Raichi and other defenders to basically step up themselves and create plays for themselves as well, and this would get them the ball back. Isagi would immediately start dribbling up the field, and as he pushes the pace, he would see Bachira. He would begin to isolate the people, drawing them in, but then doing a beautiful tap pass to Bachira, leading him one-on-one. But as someone else tries to intervene, it's as if Isagi begins to drag them across the field, and he begins to create some sort of cage. It's as if it's a cage around Bachira. A cage that is preventing anybody else from actually getting in to help and trap Bachira. Bachira would make one move, nutmegging one of them, and as he runs and dribbles down the field, more or less he sees open grass. He's never seen this before. It's always tons of defenders swarming to him, but as they finally break through the cage and finally make it to Bachira, there he is. He's back again. It's as if he's always there, lurking. And Bachira would do a tap pass, a beautiful one over the heads of the two defenders trying to trap him, and it would go right to Isagi. Isagi would gather it and immediately would be more or less wide open for his own goal, putting it in the top left of the net, and everybody would see that in terms of scoring, Isagi's nothing crazy, but it's as if he split the field in half. It's as if he made it so Bachira had an ideal, more or less, utilization of his own weapon. Because at the end of the day, Bachira's weapon is beautiful, perfect for, well, one-on-one. Almost unstoppable, if not unstoppable, when he is one-on-one. So the fact is, they just watched poetry in motion. They just watched the reason why Kira is so damn good. Everybody else would be in shock, would be wondering how he's able to do such a thing, in which Isagi kind of just shrugs it off. He says that maybe his mind just has a very analytical way of looking at things, especially in terms of, well, seeing what people are capable of. He says that the next person and the next person up is Kunigami, so let's go have some fun. He immediately would get the stop, more or less taking the ball from Team X, and it would be easy, especially because, well, you know, Team X is crumbling entirely, and Bato is trying to get his goal, and eventually he would break through, because at the end of the day, eventually Bato would get the matchup that he needs to score a goal, but right now, this is all Team Z's time to shine. Kunigami would look for his own goal. He knows he has to be about 28-ish meters away from the goal to score, so he wants to be around that distance, but something is telling him that the field is opening up even more than he could possibly imagine. It's as if he's seeing open goals from distances as much as 32 to 34 to even 36 meters away. Sounds like a lot, and it is, and he wonders why and how, because at the end of the day, he doesn't even know if he can kick that far. But once everything falls into place and the field opens up for him, and the pass comes soaring his way from Isagi, let's just say, oh my god. He has a realization that it's as if Isagi is spinning the ball in a certain way that it could carry momentum even further. Yeah, an absolute insane skill, but it seems as if Isagi doesn't even understand that he can do it. His pass is actually spinning the ball perfectly to the point that when Kunigami steps up, takes one step and lunges his foot and just kicks the hell out of the ball, it goes even faster than he's ever seen before. He pins the ball in the corner of the net as if he was shooting from 28 meters, but he shot it from 36, which is a massive, massive difference. Kunigami is just in complete shock about what just occurred and how Isagi was able to orchestrate it. He runs over to Isagi, telling him that was a hell of a pass, but he needs to know how he passes like that. If everybody could pass like that, it would be over. And Isagi shrugs it off, saying that he doesn't know. He's been training like this for a while, working out on his passing abilities, his ability to set up other people, his off-ball movement, all of those things. But like he said before, he's really good at knowing what's to come in terms of the field. He's good at running around and trying to get people open. He knows that it's kind of difficult for strikers to get goals if there's tons of people in the box. So he knows that he needs to set them up in various different ways. He actually stops for a second and asks Kunigami if he likes basketball, in which Kunigami is confused. Why are you even talking about basketball? You're talking about, like, the NBA from America? And Isagi would laugh and say that there is basketball in other places, and even in Japan, but that's beyond the point. He says that, yeah, basketball. And he talks about the one and only Stephen Curry. And he says that Stephen Curry has an innate way of scoring the ball. He's an amazing shooter, if not the best in the world. But Kunigami's confused. So why are you even talking about him? Are you comparing Stephen Curry to Kunigami? He says that he doesn't even really know this player. But he says that that's actually not his point. Kunigami's not necessarily Stephen Curry. That wasn't the point he was trying to make. The point he's trying to make is that Stephen Curry has a way of off-ball movement, moving around so much so that he starts distracting and manipulating everybody on the court. And Isagi says that he watched that when he was younger, and frankly, he's really into basketball, but he likes football a little bit better. He says that he kind of innately mimics that. He uses his off-ball movement to get people open and then utilizes his innate passing abilities to allow them to score. And Kunigami says that that's all cool and dandy, but he didn't really answer the question. He asked how he put a spin on the ball in terms of passing it to that point. He gets that Isagi can have insane off-ball movement, give opportunities to, obviously, him, Kunigami, And also Bachira, because Bachira's dribbling is made for just absolutely dismantling 1v1s. But Isagi says that again, that his passing ability is kind of unknown to him to an extent. But he says that he just kicks the ball exactly and perfectly to the point that he knows it spins in the right direction. And once it's spinning in that right direction, the flow of the ball will just push even further when they kick it. Isagi says that if he tried to teach him how to do it, he wouldn't be able to. He apologizes and says that he would love to, but unfortunately that's not going to happen. Kunigami shrugs it off, and the rest of the game would ensue. But the rest of the game would kind of ensue exactly the same. We're talking about a complete blowout of Team X, and it would end up being a 5-1 score, and Bato would see to it that he would get a goal. He would actually get this goal by just using his innate physicality, in which that is something that Bato should be using more often and all the time. And Isagi would even bring this up to Kunigami, that Kunigami should always use it. He should learn how to score from every and any angle, even if someone is draped all over him. But that's something they'll work on sooner rather than later. In which, during the end of this game, obviously, we have a celebration, but there's one person that is having a celebration probably even greater than Team Z. That's the maker and creator of Blue Lock, Jinpachi Ego. The risk in bringing Isagi here was big. At the end of the day, when he was watching him, he even believed that the kid was probably a midfielder. And frankly, he wasn't anything too crazy as a striker. He had no ego, it seemed, and it seemed as if he would never gain one. But there's a chance he might gain one here, and he might be even more spectacular for a reason. Because Ego begins to think to himself that he might have this different version of the one and only Sai Itoshi. Yes, don't get him wrong. He knows that this isn't Sai Itoshi. Sai Itoshi, formerly a striker and a talented one at that, now midfielder, but he believes that Isagi, he might be different than Sai Itoshi, but his ability to allow others to be better may make him even greater than, well, the failed egoist Sai Itoshi. The one that they couldn't get their hands on. But still, that's fine. Isagi came at the perfect time. Isagi has finally arrived, and Blue Lock has been put on notice. Because Isagi Yuichi has just become the architect of Blue Lock. The architect that will create, mold, and structure the best strikers in the world. But with that said, that is the end of part 1 of What If Isagi Had a Talent Enhancement Weapon. If you enjoyed, show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, and leave a comment down below. If you want to see part 2 ASAP, make sure to show some love to the video. Sorry this came out a little bit later than usual, but I had some issues with my internet and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't have that much else to say, and I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.